Welcome to Feature Fridays. My name is Guy Bartram and I'm Director of Product Marketing for our cloud providers. And today I'm joined by Expedient. Jon and Anthony, let's start with a round of introductions, guys. Jon, why don't you go first?
Sure. Thanks for having us, Guy. My name is Jon Rosenson. I'm the President and Chief Operating Officer here at Expedient, and I've been with the company for nearly 30 years now.
Fantastic. That's a long time, Jon. Thank you very much for coming on and talking about Expedient's offerings. And Anthony.
Hey, great to be here. My name is Anthony Jackman. I'm our Vice President of Strategy and Innovation. I'm not here quite as long as Jon. I'm a little over 7 years, but I lead the team that's responsible for a lot of our product development, advanced technical sales, things like that. So my team's always focused on partnering with our hardware and software vendors to craft the best solutions for our clients.
Great. Thanks, Anthony. So, Jon, let's start with you then. Can you tell us a little bit about Expedient, who you are, where you operate, and what type of services Expedient delivers for customers?
Absolutely. Thanks, Guy. Expedient is a full stack cloud services provider. We have 14 data centers in the Americas region, specifically in the United States. But we also deliver services, as you mentioned, at the edge. And so we're also a managed services provider, providing that multi-cloud management for clients, as well as a number of data protection services that allow our clients to host not only their production workloads with us, but also their disaster recovery as a service workloads.
Right. So managed services, cloud services, edge services. Do you also provide professional services to help customers get to the cloud?
Uniquely, we don't actually provide formalized professional services. We offer that as a free service, essentially, as part of the pre-sales process. But we do have partners that will engage if clients need true professional services for specific projects after they adopt our platforms.
Got it. Got it. Well, that's great to know. So an inclusive, full end-to-end service for customers.
Yeah, the unique thing about our business is that we're a 100% subscription model. So our clients subscribe to all of the services they get on a monthly basis with Expedient.
You beat me to it. That was a question for later, but that's really, really interesting. So it's a pay-as-you-use model for customers to consume the Expedient cloud?
It is. There is a minimum commitment, but we have a usage-based model for the majority of our services that allow clients to have the flexibility they need.
Awesome. And do you have any specific verticals that Expedient addresses, or is it more just general cloud solutions?
We do address some specific verticals because we get outcomes that they're looking for in healthcare, in particular, in the financial services industry, in manufacturing, as well as software as a service. So any business that has software that needs to be delivered through the internet, we offer the platform, we offer the compliance, and we offer the cost model and cloud operating approach that those industries need. And while SaaS is more of a catch-all and could apply to any industry, we possess the attestations as well as the experience and the know-how to help in those industries in particular.
Yeah, that's really useful, particularly when you're talking about compliance for these verticalized industries to be measured and metered against their specific regulations. Okay, so you mentioned Expedient is primarily US based, but obviously can deliver edge services into different regions as well. What's your sort of volume of customers look like? How many customers do you have in production today?
So in total, Expedient has more than 1,500 clients, and probably a little more than 1,000 of them are using cloud services or a combination of cloud services and physical co-location. So with the 14 data centers we have in the United States, we have several 100,000 square feet of raised floor and conditioned power that we can offer, that clients can move their physical workloads as close to their cloud services as needed for things like latency and compliance requirements. So many of our clients also will have remote locations where they need workloads to control their operations. So in the case of manufacturing or healthcare or financial services, as we said, if that computing workload needs to be close to where their employees are, where their clients are, we can offer that through our edge solutions that can be deployed wherever they need it.
Right. So in your data centers, you're running, well, we're VMware and Expedient are great partners, right? We know you're running VMware in your data centers. What, customers often have multi-clouds already. Do you have the capabilities to help them manage their multi-cloud strategy and different cloud endpoints as well as just VMware?
Indeed, we do. We've been working with VMware now for more than 18 years. It's a fantastic partnership. Thank you for all the support. And as clients have adopted technology throughout the years and other cloud providers, their environments become mixed. And so as a hybrid solutions provider, we're well equipped to support them in understanding the best location for a particular workload. And we believe oftentimes that virtual machines that have been around for a while are going to fit best on Expedient's own cloud. And as clients develop new applications through their CI/CD pipeline, adopt microservices, go to containers, we have options for those as well, but we can also provide them the visibility and control they need through other cloud providers.
Right. So it's a great option for customers that have got multi-cloud today or are looking to take advantage of multi-cloud tomorrow with different cloud endpoints for different workloads, aligning to that kind of VMware Cloud Smart strategy, which is great to hear. And equally, thank you so much for your partnership. It's been great working together so far, and I look forward to a future where we carry on working together for mutual prosperity. Okay, so let's dive into your cloud solution specifically, enterprise cloud. Can you tell me how long has this been running and how has it evolved over time?
Yeah, I think we're in our 6th year now of the Expedient Enterprise Cloud. And this is sort of our next generation cloud that came out of our more than decades long business of multi-tenanting the vCenter service. So clients could come to us and get a shared model cloud solution for their virtual machines back in the early days. As cloud services and cloud technologies matured, clients wanted more of a cloud operating model. And so with VMware's intellectual property, we were able to overlay the Cloud Director software on top of our vCenter service and create more of a distributed cloud experience for clients across multiple states in the United States and across multiple regions. So clients can gain the operating model that they need for the outcomes they're looking for, including availability, agility, cost control, and risk mitigation for their business and their workloads. And the opportunity that comes with that is taking advantage of not only the shared physical infrastructure that goes into creating the cloud, but also the opportunity to take advantage of things like APIs and other cloud characteristics that they need to transform their business.
So if I translate the kind of value that you're delivering them with, one of our products, Cloud Director, this is self-service. So, very similar to how a customer expects to consume cloud today. It is a single pane of glass into all of your cloud infrastructures in the Expedient sites and in Edge. It is the single point where you can go and deliver things like Kubernetes, backup, DR, etc. So that, and it's all gives them great control over the actual workloads themselves, or the Kubernetes clusters, or the actual resources that they want to provision. That's pretty unique. Like previously, you said there was a kind of shared vCenter model where you don't have native multi-tenancy, so you have to kind of lock down what you can offer and how a customer can access it. With this, it's complete transparency. However, you maintain a level of zero trust enterprise security by using this multi-tenanted capability from Cloud Director. And that's really kind of, in my mind, that's the enterprise grade. It's the it's the secure environment with the scalability of cloud that people want and the flexibility and choice of cloud that people want.
Absolutely. And I would add to that self-service mantra that the networking piece is a critical component as well. For us to deliver services and high value to our clients, we needed a solution that would work across all of our data centers so that our clients could take advantage of a truly distributed cloud architecture.
Yeah, that's a great point, actually. So we talk a lot about cloud, but the network is really something that kind of facilitates the access to applications and the cloud fabric. You have your data centers, your own networking in between your data centers. Do you provide additional networking services for customers as well?
We do. One of the quote unquote killer apps that our team developed several years ago, we call push button disaster recovery, push button DR. And that enables clients to move their workloads between our cloud pods for disaster recovery purposes without having to change the IP addresses on their applications for the failover. So all the components sort of move over, and that's possible because of a lot of the underlying technologies that we have that VMware offers us.
Yeah, that's pretty unique. And obviously, if you're concerned about recovery and ease of recovery, not having to change IP addresses and having the network automatically change all the routing for you to point to the new destination, that's, that can often end up in hours and hours of additional work trying to work out why you can't access your applications.
Exactly, okay. Manual work.
Yeah, exactly. We want to avoid that as much as possible. All right, so thanks, Jon. Anthony, let's switch over to you and let's talk about the edge solution. So first of all, how would you define edge, and why did Expedient feel there was enough kind of demand to deliver or to design and deliver an explicit edge solution?
Yeah. Your first question is an interesting one. I like to joke that if you ask 10 people what edge is, you'll probably get 10 different answers to it. If you ask Amazon what edge is, they'd probably say Expedient is edge, right? Our Expedient data centers in all of these cities around the country are more of an edge play than Amazon's regionalized model. If you ask a telco, you'll probably hear that it's some small sensor hanging on a telephone pole, 200 miles from the closest human. But Expedient's play is somewhere in the middle of that for what we consider to be edge. This is workloads that have a need to sit very close to a client's data, to their employees, or literally to equipment. One of our big use cases there is manufacturing. You can't really run manufacturing gear from equipment that's located remotely, because if your internet goes down and now your production line goes down, you're going to lose a significant amount of money there. So our service is really meant for that. I like to call it a 5 to 150 VM workload, as small as 5 little VMs. We have a couple edge clients right now that have very small sites, but get a tremendous amount of value out of the service. On the other end of the spectrum, you have manufacturers that have increasingly complex systems, literally running AI and digital twinning in the factories, and they require a good amount of horsepower. And we can deliver that in the same footprint that we can service those little small 5 VM workloads.
And right, and I guess some people would also ask, isn't an edge just an instance of a private cloud? How would you define the difference there between edge and private cloud?
It literally is a private cloud. It's a specifically designed private cloud that is meant to solve for, first off, cost, right? How do we deliver a private cloud at low cost? Because those little 5 VM workloads, while critical, they just don't carry that much value. So it has to be cost effective at the small scale. Also logistics. If a client comes to us and they say, hey, I've got 250 sites, I need the same edge everywhere. How do we deliver that service very quickly, very consistently to get them up and running as fast as possible? So edge for us was really about packaging private cloud in a specific way and laying some specific technologies on top of it to allow us to deploy it and manage it at scale.
Right. So a couple of questions from me regarding that, kind of spawn out of that response. One, how do you actually deliver the edge infrastructure? Do you send the units to site, or do you help customers with that? And how complex is the instantiation of an edge device, both physically and logically?
So yes, we ship the gear directly to the client site. We offer an option for self-install because it is very, very simple, and I'll walk through that process. But we also offer an onboarding service where we will send a technician along with that gear, and they'll coordinate with the client for the window in which they can install it, and they'll plug it in and get it up and running. Now, the installation procedure, it effectively needs a standard wall outlet and 2 ports, one network port to the client's network, one port that has outbound internet access only. The way that it deploys is that as soon as that's the management port is plugged into the outbound internet, it's going to tunnel back to Expedient automatically. It's going to light up in our portal, and we have a lot of automations built to standardize laying down all the software and all of the Expedient for customer specific configurations on top of that gear.
Right, that's cool. So I guess one of the questions customers would have is, in a centralized cloud model, upgrades and patching and things like that is fairly simple, but in a very, very highly distributed model with hundreds potentially of edge sites, how does a customer manage patching and updates in that scenario?
So fortunately for the clients, they don't need to worry about patching or updates, at least for the platform itself. Expedient is handling all of that. And now that raises the next question: how does Expedient deal with this when we've now sold thousands of these sites? Right, a few years from now, we've got thousands of sites running. How do we manage it? A lot of automation, standardization, so that even if a client has 100 sites, we effectively kick off the same procedures if they had one, and it's going to roll across those and update with our validated and tested patches. From the OS perspective, for the client, so long as they have each individual site has its outbound network connectivity, standard networking for things like OS patches. If they want to do it themselves, that also is a service that Expedient can offer on top of this, however. And we do offer all clients also the local backdoor, right? Because this is edge. You never know what's going to happen to the networking. If any individual site loses networking out to the internet, the gear can still be managed locally.
Oh, wow. Okay. So the VMs keep running, the services are up, the applications are staying there. And I guess when network connectivity pops back up, everything pulls back into sync.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's for Edge, it's critical. These workloads cannot be dependent on an internet connection being present. We know that they're shaky at best. We see satellite links, we see Starlink, we see, dial-up lines that get cut, a little bit of everything. So it absolutely has to function in the loss of internet scenario.
And this could be quite interesting. I mean, people will label their computing area as data centers, even if it's like in a cleaner's cupboard sort of thing. So yeah, you're going to get power cords getting pulled out or whatever it might be. So that's really essential. So if I summarize then, so Expedient offers the enterprise cloud, which then gives you that experience of self-serve, choice, flexibility. You can then extend your enterprise cloud with individual edge private clouds, which can be shipped to site. You can configure them if you want. They're very basic, just plug and play and off you go. Expedient then overlays all the stack and brings the system up. Or you can get someone to come along and do it from Expedient to help you. You'll manage the patching remotely. You'll manage all of the systems themselves and ensure obviously the service level and quality of services are good. So this really kind of begs the question. And really, I think from a customer's perspective, all I need to think about is where am I going to put this unit? Does it require a rack? What's the kind of requirement around the actual box? And how rugged are these things? Could I literally put it under my desk?
Yeah, absolutely. It does not have a rack requirement. It can sit directly on a desk. Again, it just needs a standard wall outlet. They are rated to handle literally being dropped, so they're somewhat shock proof. If you need to pick it up and move it around, we don't recommend that, but it certainly can be done. From a temperature standpoint, it does not require a conditioned environment. It can run at 100% of its performance profile up to a little over 130 degrees Fahrenheit ambient temperature. So it's really meant to run anywhere a client needs it to.
Wow. Well, that's a significant differentiator. And when I think about the services and the potential what you've got to deploy in that edge and the capabilities it brings, like you mentioned, some of the AI machine learning stuff for manufacturing. I mean, that's game-changing differentiation that you're enabling by delivering this edge. So let's talk about the economics of it then. I mean, Jon, you indicated everything's as a subscription. Obviously, there's going to be a cost for this edge. How do I make sure that I've got enough compute for the environment? Like Anthony said, 5 VMs. What's the max capacity? How do I scale this stuff up?
So we've actually built a sizing tool that our solution architects use as part of the pre-sales process. So we will analyze a client's existing workload. If it's there, if it's going to be net new, we'll have a discussion with them about what that workload looks like. Our solution architects plug that information into our sizing tool, and it spits out the proper configuration for that client, as well as a runway report to say, here's where you're going to be today, and here's how much runway you have, because we know that these edge workloads are generally growing workloads. For that small cost-effective box, less cores in the box, less RAM, really cost-effective for a small solution. But for clients that need to get dense, we can get up to 1.5 terabytes of usable RAM in the box. So it really is a lot of horsepower in a small package. 1.5 terabytes of RAM, up to 96 physical cores of usable CPU. That's both of those numbers are accounting for N+. So if a node fails, your workload continues to run, and up to 30 terabytes of usable storage prior to compression, which is being provided with all NVMe super high performance storage via vSAN.
Wow. Okay. And just out of interest, we mentioned AI. Do you guys support GPU in the box?
We do. We're also partnered with NVIDIA, so we can put accelerators in the box all the way up to and including the newest Lovelace generation accelerators.
That's fantastic. So what do you consider a node? What does this thing actually look like? Have you got something you could show us?
Yeah, so I don't have the real physical one. That one's out on a road show doing some real work, but we have a life-size scale model kind of marketing box that's printed to look like one of the edges. So this is what it looks like. It's kind of two soccer balls sitting next to each other in size. Maximum weight on it is about 50 pounds, so pretty light, easy to transport around. And it's a blade chassis, so 4 blades slide in. The way Expedient delivers our services, we always account for N+, because this is meant to be a highly available service.
So that's a 4-blade chassis, right? So, okay, so you can half fill the chassis, 3 is the minimum you said, and then you can add one more for 4, get that extra, 40-50% of compute power.
Yep, 3 nodes is the default. We kind of have, again, based on our sizing tool, small, medium, large. For the CPU and RAM, we can put any amount of disks in it that a client needs. The starting point is usually 3 blades, and that is really nice because it allows a 50% growth by adding in that 4th blade when you account for the N+ node.
Okay, that's fantastic, and I love the cardboard box. That's a very useful tool to have to show people without having to carry an actual box around. I love it. Okay, so let's talk about some of the kind of the technologies then that you see customers using these edge nodes for. I mean, we mentioned manufacturing, we mentioned AI a few times. What other kind of use cases have you seen? And is Expedient involved in helping customers deliver these solutions?
So I'm going to say manufacturing again, because it's the one where we're seeing the most demand. And the reason we're seeing the most demand, at least we think, is that these are historically fairly poorly run systems. It's either the operational technology team running it, and it's not really what they do, right? It's just ancillary to their real job. Or it's the IT team doing it, and they're reaching over into the OT team's world, and that they argue with each other, and it just doesn't work out great. So both sides of the house are really looking for a partner to come in and hand them a solution that is performant, and that is secure, and that can be delivered at scale, and is going to be reliable. So we're really seeing a lot of traction there. What's that workload look like? It comes from one of the large DCS vendors. There's a whole bunch of them out there. At the end of the day, they all run on x86 infrastructure. At least the centralized command and control of it runs on x86 infrastructure. So it's a really good fit there. Probably number 2 we see is retail. Increasingly, retail locations are including more intelligence, right? They have cameras. They want to do image recognition and things like that. They need to run POSs, and they don't want to be dependent on what if the cell signal drops? So this is also a really great fit for that retail location.
Okay, yeah, very good. And what's the kind of, I mean, apart from Expedient delivering the service, and this is a box you guys have designed and built, I'm assuming here, right? This isn't an off-the-shelf solution. This is something specifically Expedient has designed. Is that correct?
No, the hardware is standard hardware. It's just not something that many people buy. We're partnered with HPE for this particular box.
Right.
So it's not about the hardware. The hardware is just the way that we are delivering services. The real magic is in, again, being able to deliver this at scale. And on top of the base virtualization and compute that we can provide, we can also carry along all of the other Expedient services on top of this box. So all of our security services, our monitoring and management, our cost control platform, file services, object, these are all things that can be delivered alongside Edge.
And I think, Guy, to punctuate what Anthony just said, we have more than a decade of experience now delivering these kinds of services, well, almost 2 decades of experience delivering these services to our clients through our data centers. So it's a natural extension for us to deliver this at the premises of their choice, assuming that there's value to them in having those workloads located there. And so while the pendulum swung pretty hard to cloud first or cloud only several years ago, we have always experienced a pendulum sort of in the middle range where people are hybrid. They have workloads spread out because they have different needs. And so we're well positioned to serve them wherever they need that workload to be.
And I guess if I was a customer, I'm thinking Edge solutions, and here there's a big differentiator with Expedient. But Anthony, could you just kind of exemplify how would this be different from something like AWS Outposts, for example?
Yeah, first off, from a cost perspective, the barrier to entry is much, much lower than AWS Outposts. It's also a familiar system that our clients know and trust in VMware. Most of these shops are already running VMware today, albeit they may still be on ESX4 and went very out of date because it's been a little bit mismanaged. It is something that they already know and trust. And also, VMware has the stamp of approval of all of those DCS vendors when we talk about the manufacturing use case. They're, while I'm sure that they would run fine on AWS Outposts, they are not certified on AWS Outposts. So that when the support call comes in, the first question is about what's the platform it's running on. We have a very definitive answer for that, in that this is a supported and proven platform.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point, right? That's a huge differentiator for all of those slightly older systems and still newer systems that companies rely on and have built their businesses around. Having that support is critical. Okay, and you mentioned obviously the security and management capabilities you guys have. Do you want to just dive into a little bit of that? I think we've covered the Edge quite nicely now, but as a kind of cloud as a whole, how is it made secure? What technologies are using to do that? How does a customer kind of interact with security? Can they have like full control over their cloud security? What type of solutions do you use?
Sure. I think I'll start with how we kind of designed the physical networking to provide a client segmentation by default. So our management path into the box, Expedience, is a different physical network path than the client network, and that was by choice. The client gets 2 dedicated uplinks out of this platform that goes into their network, and they have full control over that. They can do whatever they need with it, and more importantly, that network is not bleeding over into the Expedient management. So it's completely segmented by default. Now, we can also lay all of our existing security services on top of this, which is important because most of our clients are consuming more than one service from us. Most clients that have Edge also have central cloud. You don't want 2 operating models. You don't want 2 ways of doing security. So we give them a consistent way of doing both of those. We can do micro-segmentation. From a network firewalling perspective, we have a product that we call our multi-cloud firewall. This allows clients to put a virtual firewall at every location they have, as well as in their data center, and gives them a single pane of glass control over all of it. We also do modern EDR and logging and SIM, and we do that the same way, regardless of whether you're in our data center or you're running at an edge. You get one pane of glass to look at all of your data so that you can correlate across events. And if something were to happen, you can really chase down to what was the root cause of that, and you can see that across your entire IT landscape.
And obviously, one of the key things on customers' minds these days is things like ransomware. How does the portfolio address that?
So one of the standard services we deploy alongside this, I don't think anyone buys it without it, is our backup service. So we have a couple different options for backups. We can run backups locally and then replicate those back to Expedient. If a client is constrained for space or they don't want another appliance there, we also can back up directly to Expedient over the internet. And then our backup platform has options for immutability. So by policy, a client can dictate that when backup jobs run, they need to be retained for whatever period the client sees fit. Typical is, kind of 14 or 30 days. And we will mark those as immutable so that even we, Expedient, cannot delete those files or modify them in any way if we wanted to. We also offer disaster recovery services. Now for Edge, that's a little bit of a strange one, right? If you need the workload to run locally, you can't really replicate it somewhere else and run it. Although we did have a couple clients that actually do DR, or a couple prospects, I should say, that were designing a solution for DR within a single facility. So the facility is so large that they want to run the primary workload on one side, but it's at risk of, I don't know, someone dumping water on it. They can click the button and fail the entire workload over to the other side of the factory on a completely different infrastructure. And at the same time, if they were to get ransomware, they could kind of hit that, what I call the DVR button, and rewind the clock and fail it over to the other infrastructure to get back up and running as soon as possible.
Oh, that's excellent. Excellent. Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting point about DR at the edge, but I suppose having a recovery option is better than having nothing. So, it will still run, albeit slowly and problematically, but disasters are disasters. So you've got that. You mentioned microsegmentation. So just to break that down, that is a firewall for the actual workload itself. So you've got your ingress north-south firewall that protects threats from coming in, like denial of service attacks. Then you've got your internal domain, and the microsegmentation piece is fantastic prevention for ransomware, because whilst one machine gets infected, it won't be able to touch other machines. So you're locking down everything else by default, zero trust, and preventing the spread of ransomware. And then obviously, as you said, you can fall into that recovery mode if there is an event.
Absolutely. Okay. It's kind of critical at this point to segment workloads, because we know that dwell time is going up. When attackers get one machine, they are just sitting there and they're crawling the network looking for what else they can get. So especially for critical workloads, again, like manufacturing, it's very important to kind of lock down your security posture as much as possible.
Yeah, I mean, when you've got large networks, patching is an issue. So this kind of negates that to a certain extent. I wouldn't say you don't have to do patching. You absolutely have to do patching. But, if a ransomware infection is taking advantage of an open port like RDP, which is typical, because it hasn't been patched or locked down, microsegmentation will just stop that proliferating throughout the network. And you mentioned earlier some management capability and monitoring capability. So can you give me shed a little bit more light on what that actually means?
Sure. If we start with the monitoring half, because that applies just to the base platform itself, right? Expedient is feeding data from all of these edge devices to our centralized monitoring, where we've really tweaked and tuned it so that if there's an issue in the client environment, we generally know before they do. Or if there's an issue about to come up, they start overrunning on CPU, they're ballooning memory, anything like that, right? We can see that up front. We get alerted, and we can let the client know so that they can adjust their workload accordingly if that were to happen. But we also extend that monitoring into the operating systems themselves for clients that want to purchase that service. So we can make sure that their OSs are configured to the best practices, that they're locked down and secure, that their AV is up to date. And then we will also handle all the patching and management of those operating systems. And the clients can kind of just forget about it and focus on their applications, which is what's really driving their business.
Got it. Right. And I guess in terms of compliance as well, you deliver compliance reports based on the data you've gathered and the applications that are being used, et cetera, and security posture.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So I think I've got as much information as I think I can glean at the moment. I'm just trying to, make a wrap out this in terms of a customer who's got multiple sites a day. Perhaps, like you say, they've got IT struggling to deliver the cloud services locally that they need. How would they engage, and what would the engagement process look like?
So generally, they're going to be engaged with one of our sales teams. And step one for us is our solution architect's going to have a discussion with them about what the workload is, any struggles that they have currently, what their needs are, and what their goals are. We're going to size that workload or that platform accordingly for each individual site. We'll schedule the deployment with the clients, and we'll roll it out. And then the other piece that comes along with it, which we have a long history of doing this for our clients, is actually executing on the migrations. Migrations are notoriously difficult for many clients. We've done about every type of migration you can imagine, and we've gotten very good at doing them consistently, quickly, error-free. And in the case of Edge, because this box is sitting right next to their existing workload, we've had a lot of success with Edge so far, literally doing live migrations for certain servers, not even shutting them down, and live migrating clients off of their existing platform and onto our new platform. And they get to kind of wipe their hands of it and, okay, I'm done managing infrastructure at this point.
Nice. I like it. And obviously they get all of the benefits from the new platform capabilities, power, and advanced functionality that they're getting with hopefully the latest versions of the underlying solutions. One thing that's always key on a customer's mind is cost. Now, you mentioned there's like t-shirt sizing for the Edge, t-shirt pricing. Jon, you mentioned pay as you consume for your cloud technologies. How do you help customers manage cost in Expedient Cloud, but also in other clouds?
Yeah, so we start off with, like I said, that base commitment that the client's going to make as a result of the assessment that the solution architects have done. And they have several tools that they use to collect that information, put that into our sizers and our calculators, and come up with what their needs are going to be. And that also gives us that runway that Anthony talked about. But we also have tools that we can expose to the client after they become a customer to allow them to monitor their usage and to actually visually see where their usage patterns are going. So they can make sure that their workloads are in the right location, but also that the usage of those workloads is what they would expect to be from their users. So they can make the adjustments over time as needed to, for example, one of the opportunities that we offer our clients is something called revenue portability. If a certain application or applications aren't being used as much as they once were, they can size down some of the resources being used for that application and size up others.
Wow. Okay. That's you've got a whole 360 portfolio here covering a real enterprise grade offering, which is very, very impressive. Just to kind of finish up then, we've talked about a lot of capability, a lot of solutions. Is there anything coming down the roadmap that you want to highlight as particularly exciting that customers will be kind of looking forward to?
Yeah, I think the one piece that we missed with Edge is that we've done a lot of talking about virtual machines and existing workloads, which it's obviously just a tailor-made fit for, but it also is a fit for the modern workloads. So we have a Kubernetes as a service platform that we can lay on top of this. And again, it is the same exact Kubernetes as a service platform that you can consume in our data center, on your own gear, or in a hyperscaler if need be. So for clients that are going through this transformation, we can make that available to them. And also that platform, when you combine Kubernetes with GPUs, you start talking the AI use case. For clients that are needing to do things like inference, we can provide a lot of inference power locally in a very small footprint for clients that have that need.
That's going to be incredibly useful in addressing a lot of customer needs for next generation application designs to make themselves more competitive and more efficient. Gents, I think that's fantastic. I love this solution. I absolutely love this solution. I think you've got a very, very nice comprehensive cloud offering extending into remote sites and edge locations, which is really very unique. So Anthony, Jon, thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate it. And I wish you all the success in your ongoing cloud development and opportunities.
Thank you as well.